This is Jungle Girrrl, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hey guys, it's Tessa Blanchard, and you're in the Wrestling Epicenter.
Wake up, sleepyheads. It's party time! Sorry, that's a callback to one of my favorite movies, Trick or Treat. Haven't done a show in a few weeks, so I thought I'd bring that out there. Gene Simmons playing the role of Wolfman Jack, if you will, and Skippy from Family Ties played a metalhead. Anyway, I'm way off topic already, and we're just getting started recording. Welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio, right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. It is James Walsh, your ADHD-riddled host since 2002, and this week we bring you a WoW superhero. Man, I'm loving WoW on AXSTV every Saturday night. I loved WoW, the original incarnation, and some of those original girls are back. Jungle Girrrl, our guest this week, being one of them. We hope you guys enjoy this interview right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com, and I do want to put over the match that Jungle Girrrl just recently had with Tessa Blanchard as one of the best matches I've seen of the year, and I mean that. They hit each other hard. There was some blood the hard way. Man, for WoW superheroes, which a lot of people unfortunately don't give the respect that maybe it deserves, these girls are going out there and doing it. And Jungle Girrrl, somebody who came outside of wrestling before she got into WoW years ago, back in the first incarnation, if you see what she could do in the ring, I mean, it's damn impressive. So do not sleep on WoW superheroes. And man, I hope this show continues to grow and prosper with the sale of AXSTV to Anthem and so on and so forth. We discussed that and a whole lot of other things at this interview, so be sure and stay tuned and listen in. I want to encourage everybody to find us on our social media platforms. Of course, you're already here on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, give us a comment, tell us what you think of what we're doing here. We love doing it, so hopefully you're enjoying listening. Also, Twitter at WEpicenter, not our biggest platform, just started doing it a few months ago, starting to build a following, but the big following is on Facebook. Facebook.com/Wrestling Epicenter. Hope you guys enjoy all of those platforms, and of course, the mecca of it all, the nucleus, if you will, is our main website, www.WrestlingEpicenter.com, where you can find so many great things, our entire interview archives, including WoW superheroes of old, such as Terry Gold, in our archive section at WrestlingEpicenter.com, and of course, you can also check out our store and buy something, will you? Because we need to keep this thing going free of charge. Without any further delay, I'm done. Let's get to Jungle Girrrl right here on the Wrestling Epicenter. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is a young lady I've wanted to have on our show since I was visiting and frequenting her GeoCities website back in the day, many, many moons ago. Of course, I am talking about the WoW superhero, Jungle Girrrl. Jungle Girrrl, are you with us?
I am, and very happy to be here. Thank you, James.
You've got WoW Superheroes right now on AXSTV in a new season. How are you enjoying how the presentation is going so far for AXSTV's incarnation of WoW Superheroes?
Oh, I think it's incredible. I think that the evolution that we've had from when we started 20 years ago to where we are right now really is, I mean, it's not even the pinnacle, but it certainly is where I think David's vision was 20 years ago, what he wanted to see. The difference now is that everybody that's on board is now in mutual agreement as far as the vision that they have for WoW that David had 20 years ago. And not only that, now there is a pool of talent that is spectacular. It was difficult to find, let alone a handful of women that were doing what they're doing now, to a roster now that we have of 30 plus women in the locker room. It is incredible. And I would agree, this is the best wrestling I have had in those 20 years. And, my hat's off to the women that I get to compete with, because they have elevated my game as well as all of wrestling and women's wrestling. So I think what we have right now is a beautiful thing, and it's just going to keep getting better.
Very good, very good. So I've been doing this a little while, and back in 2006, I had on Terry Gold, one of your old nemesises.
Yes.
Nemesi? I'm not sure plural of that one.
Whatever.
Yeah. So we were talking about the first version of WoW, and she said that a lot of you guys had never wrestled matches before, and this was really, your first exposure to wrestling. I guess, is that true in your case as well?
That was true in my case. So we had tryouts, and David was looking for incredibly athletic women who, not only had the athleticism, but had the ability to be trained easily. We didn't have a whole lot of time to put together from when we had first started to the initial matches that we had done. And, so a lot of it was, are these women athletic, and can they be trained easily? With any athlete, you want someone who's great, but you want someone who's coachable. So, the majority of us had athletic backgrounds, but not athletic backgrounds in wrestling. So it was a first-time opportunity for myself and most of the women that were involved. But it was certainly a passion for most of us as far as we were wrestling fans. And it's very different when being a fan and then really understanding the mechanics of the movements and the true athleticism that goes into putting together a match and going out there and not only entertaining the fans, but putting together matches that are dynamic and awesome to watch.
Absolutely, I agree. And your persona, I get a lot of influence maybe from Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. So when I at first, they did not go in with the women that they had selected for the first go-around with any particular kind of characters in mind with them. So they had taken a look at us when we were in training based on our background. So my mother is from Colombia, South America, and so my entire, half of my family is Colombian. And then just what I kind of gravitated towards naturally, which was the high-flying moves. And I grew up loving Superfly Snuka. And so they took that, combination of the two things, and Jungle Girrrl was created. And I'm certainly proud to have, I think that I've done her a great justice. And, it's been awesome to carry her and to be that person for 20 years.
Awesome. And I promise we will circle back to more modern times. But I wanted to ask you if you guys were aware of how popular what you were doing was, even backstage at WWE and WCW events. I know for a fact that the WCW locker room used to sing along to the Patty Pizzazz theme song back. Do you have any idea that it was that popular back then?
That's awesome. Well, you know what? Part of what I think we were really trying to do is how do you, marry the athleticism and the capture the true wrestling fan, and then make it super enjoyable where you're getting, younger and a younger audience watching, because that's where I think WWE and WCW and most of the companies have failed. It's great to keep your audience, but are you getting new people watching? And by new people, I mean, under the age of 40. So I think that's hysterical that they're singing along and having a good time. I think I was aware of a lot of the influence, just because I think after we were on, you saw a shift in the locker rooms for the women in other organizations where their matches started to change. The conversation when the women were in the ring started to change. And, I'm proud that we really were a catalyst to that and started to change women's wrestling as we know it today. And by the way, you look now and some of the women's matches are greater than, anything that the men have put out there. So very proud, and I like to hear those stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, we will circle back to more modern times. Final question on the old days, and then we'll circle back around, is the Unleashed pay-per-view. It seemed like it was such a big deal. I know back in those days, pay-per-view was kind of the coup de grace, where everybody wanted to be to really establish whatever they were trying to establish. Was the case for ECW. Certainly, I think was the case for WoW. But it seemed to be also maybe the beginning of the end. Because it didn't seem to be that much after the Unleashed pay-per-view. Do you think that was kind of the beginning of the end for any reason?
I do think it was. Unfortunately, that's the situation where the vision for what David had and the investors that we had were not in line. They weren't the same. And so you kind of had a butting of heads as far as the creative and the financial. And so, one thing I have to say for David McLane is that through all of this, he has been unwavering in what his vision has been, good or bad. And I think it's been great because he's taken a lot of no's. There are various different TV deals and different deals that we could have had that did not share his same vision, and David turned them down. And as a result, we are where we are today. And because of that, the product is that much greater than it was back then. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes you take two steps forward and you take a step back, and unfortunately that step back was a little bit longer than any of us had anticipated. But I think that step back gave David the opportunity to get all of the people on board, Jeannie Buss included, who really shared that same vision and wanted to make something extraordinary. And I think that we've shown that now, that the product that we have now is extraordinary. Not only the women, but the production and everything else that goes with it.
Absolutely. And I had a chance to speak to David McLane a few months ago, and I gave him a quote that he reminded me of. If you remember, towards the end of A League of Their Own, he said, "I think you're wrong, Mr. Harvey, and I'm going to prove it to you." And he seemed to get a real kick out of that because he kind of is proving us all wrong, or anybody who doubted it wrong for sure. So I'm very happy to see his success.
I think when you have this young guy that's traveling in the circuit and watching these women that are kind of second-rate citizens, not really being taken seriously, working super hard and being underpaid and undervalued and just kind of fill in matches. And he said, listen, I think there's something to this. I think we can make something of this. And everybody, just kind of laughed at him and said, it's never going to work. And so, I have a lot of respect for somebody that sees something that others don't, and then, makes it come to fruition. And it's that much sweeter. And I think, for him, it hasn't really been proving everybody else wrong. I think it's a matter of proving himself right. I think he knew all along the fact that nobody else did was their problem. What he wanted was to prove himself right, and I think he has.
I absolutely do. So don't take this the wrong way, but do you find that maybe the new season of WoW is a little less, how would the word be, camp than it was back in 2000?
No, I don't take that the wrong way. I think we were a lot more campy, and I think we kind of had to be, because I don't think people in general were taking women's wrestling seriously, and I think it kind of had to be a little bit more campy. I think now the athleticism of the women have been proven. I think, bringing in people like a Tessa Blanchard that has solidified, her place in the business, and people take her very seriously to have her on board with us. And, other women, certainly not just her. She's not standing alone in that aspect. But I think that's changed it, where now the storylines are a little bit more serious, but we're still keeping it light and we're keeping it entertaining. And what I like is that I have a 10-year-old son, and he does not miss a single episode, whether I'm in it or not. He loves the show. It's appropriate for him. It's equally as appropriate for someone who is older and loves wrestling. So I think that WoW has found its niche with all audiences. And so it appeals to the diehard wrestling fan, and it appeals to someone who wants something a little bit lighter as well. So the fact that I can sit there, you know, as my kid's mom, watching the show and enjoying it tremendously with him is really satisfying for me, and it should be, you know, a tremendous satisfaction for the entire WoW organization.
You pretty much shocked the entire organization when you finally were pinned after all these years. Was that a bitter pill to swallow, or were you okay with your first unfortunate defeat?
Oh, man, of course that was a bitter pill to swallow. It's never, you know, I mean, initially it was, you know, the initial pin was with the Beast coming out and kind of taking me down, and Tessa then capitalizing on that and getting the victory. Of course it is. It's a bittersweet feeling, especially when it's, you know, you're cheated out of what could have rightfully been yours. But, you know, I'm a fighter. I'm a competitor. Always have been, always will be. So I'll get in the ring with anybody that David puts in front of me, and I'll fight tooth and nail. And I think, you know, that shows in this last episode with Tessa, or 2 episodes ago, it was a hell of a match. And it was aggressive. It was a battle. It was epic. And I think, you know, I certainly held my own. Tessa certainly held her own. And, yeah, I haven't seen the last of that particular feud. I think there's a tremendous amount of respect as athletes, as competitors. I like to be challenged. You know, you never want to go into a situation where, you know, it's easy, and anybody that wants that is not a true competitor. So I welcome it. She got the victory clean, and I'm looking forward to the next round.
Very good. You mentioned you have a 10-year-old, so do I, and we watch WoW every Saturday night, and I remember when that match was on, my son came to me, and he kind of gets it, but he doesn't fully get it, like the inside of it, because he hears me and my wife talking all the time, and he said, you know, I don't think they really don't like each other, yourself and Tessa. I really think they hate each other.
Well, you know, I hate some of her antics. I certainly do. But when someone is that good, you have to respect them. And there is a level of respect. And, you know, for me, as a competitor, having been in the business for a very long time and understanding the business, and having someone that brings out the best of you and pushes you to your limit, you know, someone that makes you better, you want to hate so badly, but you can't. I mean, I have a level of respect for her that I have not shared with anybody else, really. I mean, I have that level of respect for the Beast as well. I don't particularly care for her antics either, but certainly a level of respect that is undeniable.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's been a few changes over at AXSTV, as you probably are aware, with Impact Wrestling's parent company, Anthem, purchasing the network. Obviously, Tessa Blanchard's a huge part of Impact Wrestling as well as WoW. What do you think this means, if anything, for the future of WoW, and will it impact it whatsoever?
You know, I don't know, truth be told. I think we're 2 very different products. I think that the viewer is smart enough to understand that there are 2 separate products. You know, there are people that talk about, oh, well, you have one particular character wrestling on Impact as a face and another, you know, that same person then wrestling with WoW as a heel. Right. I think that, you know, as consumers of the sport, we're smart enough to understand that. I think that the products are completely different. I can't sit there and watch Impact with my son. I mean, there are things in there that just, you know, are not age appropriate. I think they're both phenomenal shows. I think we have a better product overall. I think our production value far surpasses that of Impact's. You know, and I think time will tell what the future will be. I'm not in that decision-making process. That's for David and the executives with Access and the executives within the WOW organization to make the decision as to what is best for each of them, what is best for not only WOW and Impact, but also best for Access TV. I don't think one hurts the other. You know, Impact is on Tuesday nights. We're on Saturday nights. I think, you know, we're getting great ratings. I think Impact is getting some equal ratings. So, you know, I think that ultimately will be up to the network and will be up to each of the individual shows. But I think there's a place for both of us. And only time will tell whether or not, you know, it becomes ego at that point in time. You know, if somebody doesn't want to share, if somebody, you know, feels like they have a bigger ego and Impact says, well, we don't want to be on that same network as well. Well, shame on them. But time will tell.
Time will tell. I'm looking forward to it. We're almost at the time frame that I told you. I got just a few more questions. Do you have a few more moments for me?
Sure.
All right. So you mentioned heel and babyface, and I've noticed a little more edge recently from Jungle Girrrl than certainly we had seen in prior years. Are you enjoying having a little bit more edge on camera?
I am enjoying a little bit more edge. You know, there is, every woman has her limits. And, you know, when you're going in and you're doing things by the book, and unfortunately other people choose not to, and you're being, you know, that costs you a match or costs you different opportunities, there comes a point in time where you're done playing by the rules and you start to make your own rules. So whether that be life or wrestling, you know, whatever it might be, you know, I'm done playing by the rules. And yes, I do have a little bit more of an edge, and I'm enjoying it tremendously.
All right. So if you turn on the TV on Wednesday nights, there's a guy named Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, Luke Perry's son, wrestling. What do you think of him using the jungle gimmick?
You know, it's funny. I think he's extraordinary. I really like him. You know, we started using Jungle Boy when we put him on WOW. So, you know, we were using Jungle Boy far before. I'm not even sure that he was at an age where he could wrestle Jungle Boy. But I think he's a phenomenal athlete. I enjoy to watch him. I think he's great. I think it's awesome that he uses it. I just think that's, you know, just brings more value to Jungle Girrrl, Jungle Boy, and the whole jungle genre. I mean, I think it's great. You know, maybe we might have to duke it out one day, because I do have the original Jungle Boy.
Awesome. And final question for you. I heard an interview you did doing my research, and you were talking about your gym. Do you want to mention your gym and promote your gym a little bit?
Oh, no, I would love to. So my gym is here in Richmond, Virginia, and I started it 6 years ago. I opened up the doors. So it is called Endorphasm. Endorphasm is a word that I created, and it is by definition the point during physical exertion that you feel all things are possible. So it is an opportunity for people to come in, to leave their ego at the door, to have their asses handed to them, to push. And what I feel is that when you allow yourself to be pushed physically, it allows you to push on a different level mentally. And so for me, I like to go and leave it all on the floor. It's kind of my church, my sanctuary, a place where I am completely present and completely removed all at the same time. But it's an opportunity for athletes to come in and to have a hell of a workout, and for somebody who's never worked out a day in their life to come in and also be challenged, but for us to modify. And it's just a really overall great experience. So boutique fitness at its finest. I love what I do. So I also have to stay prepared when I'm up against, I love the fact that you called me young lady, but up against the super young ladies, and being a little veteran in my own right. So I make sure that I keep agile, athletic, and fine-tuned.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this with me. Before I do let you go, can I ask for one last favor from you?
Absolutely.
Do you mind if I ask for a station ID, just saying this is Jungle Girrrl and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter?
Absolutely. This is Jungle Girrrl, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me.
You got it, James. I appreciate it.
All right. And Erin, I don't know if you're there too, but thank you for facilitating this for me. I appreciate it.
She might not be there.
I'm still here. No problem.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right,
James.
guys. Bye-bye. You too.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Tony Schiavone, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter. And I would stick around, but I'm desperately out of time.